সিঙ্গাপুরে নানিয়াং টেকনোলজিক্যাল ইউনিভার্সিটির অ্যাসোসিয়েট প্রফেসর সোশ্যোলজি ডিপার্টমেন্ট ডক্টর মোহাম্মদ সাইদুল ইসলাম। আপনাকে স্বাগতম ডক্টর সাইদুল ইসলাম, আপনি অন এয়ারে আছেন, প্লিজ আপনি আপনার আলোচনা উপস্থাপন করেন।
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Respected chair, moderator, presenters and viewers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So what I'm going to talk today is absolutely significant today. It was significant before and it will be more significant even in the post-corona world. The topic I'm going to talk is from grief to glory towards a broader agenda for reconstructing the Ummah. So basically, I'm going to talk about some of the problems that constitute the grief and some of the solutions that we have today. Okay, first of all, we all know that the Muslims are physically and psychologically subjugated, and what we need to do is basically to deconstruct external and internal colonization, resolve our internal feuds, contest Western supremacy, and we need to rebuild the Ummah. The second problem that we have is the quality rather than quantity actually matters. We all know that every fifth human being there in the world, there is a Muslim. For every single Hindu, there are 2 Muslims. For every single Buddhist, there are 2 Muslims. And for every single Jew, there are 100 Muslims. So over the 119 years, 14 million Jews have owned over 15 dozen Nobel Prizes, while only 5 Nobel Prizes have been owned by 2 billion Muslims, other than peace prizes. So we can very clearly understand that quality rather than quantity actually matters in the world. Lack of education is number 3, and we know that 57 Muslim countries have only just 5,500 universities. 1 university for every 3 million Muslims. The United States alone has 5,300 universities. India has 8,000 plus universities. No Muslim majority state with a literacy rate of 100% in the world today. In Bangladesh, for example, less than 5% Muslims can read Quran. So lack of education is definitely one of the central problems. So there are many other problems, but these are 3 central problems we are facing today. Even we'll be facing this problem in the post-corona world. So why the Muslims are powerless today, despite having a lot of resources, a lot of possibilities, and a lot of wealth? Because we are not producing knowledge, because we are not diffusing our knowledge, because we are not applying our knowledge. And the future belongs to the knowledge-based societies. And all what we do is shout to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the whole day and blame everyone else for our multiple failures. So basically we are facing some kind of and doing some kind of blaming game. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says very clearly that Allah never changes the fate of a nation unless and until they change what is in themselves. So now let me go to the path to glory. What are the possibilities to reconstruct the Ummah in the crisis and also in the post-corona world, inshallah? I am going to talk about 4 fundamental issues today. The first thing is reinventing our greatest strength. And as a Muslim, we actually forgot our strength. The only Muslims have authentic, revealed knowledge that no other community in the world actually has. We also have the favor of the Supreme God, albeit conditional. And we have the strong historical and civilizational heritages. For example, we had the fastest and long surviving civilization in the whole world. We also had a globalization that was based on social justice, not based on exploitation. We had the economic structure that was based on equality and equity. We had the scientific revolution in the past to appreciate the science of Allah. And today's scientific revolution is basically profit maximization. And we also had a balanced society, and that has perfect combination of spiritualism and materialism. The society was environmentally sound, socially responsible, culturally friendly. There were women rights, human rights, animal rights, rights of all non-Muslims and so on and so forth. So we had all these different resources that we totally forgot, and there is a need to reinvent our greatest strength. The second thing we need to do is we need to understand the educational challenges of the whole Ummah. And that includes, for example, orientation or identity, relationship with the God and with the world, solidarity and ethics, and social structure. And there are a lot of things we can discuss, but for the sake of time, I'm not going into detail. The next thing, the number 3 thing is that we need to find out the conflict and congruent, the similarities and the conflicts between Islam and neoliberal modernity. The current world is called neoliberal modernity, and we all know that it is characterized by free market, characterized by deregulation and privatization. When we talk about free market does not mean that market is free for everyone to do their business. Free market means that market is free The capital is free to go anywhere in the world to exploit labor, to exploit natural resources and the environment. And the main motive of neoliberal modernity is basically accumulation of wealth and power at the cost of humanity, at the cost of environmental sustainability, and at the cost of universal justice. And this is exactly what is going on. So there is a fundamental difference between Islam and neoliberal morality, especially in terms of epistemology, in terms of freedom, in terms of tarbiyah, in terms of political structure, as well as social institution. Epistemology, for example, we know that Quran and Sunnah and human experience is basically the source of our knowledge. But on the other hand, neoliberal modernity, human experience, science and technology devoid of any divine injunction is basically the source of knowledge. Freedom from the shackle of God, false God. We also enjoy guided freedom in Islam. But in neoliberal modernity, freedom is freedom from religion, and freedom basically is unbridled freedom of consumption. So in this way, there are plenty of differences between Islam and neoliberal modernity. But at the same time, there are a lot of congruence. There are a lot of rooms in which we can cooperate together.
Excuse me, dear speaker, you got a minute to go ahead. Please go ahead.
Inshallah. So in terms of science and technology, efficiency, rule of law, human rights, animal rights, environmentalism, women rights, professionalism, human dignity. So there are plenty of areas in which we can have congruence. We can have similarities in terms of in Islam and neoliberal modernity. So our job is basically to become partner in progress rather than adversary in conflict. My final point is formulating a broader agenda. And here I formulated at least 10 fundamental points that we need to think of, especially the academics who are here. The first one is we need to reclaim our space, something that we already lost. We have to reform our own culture where we can find problematic. We need to integrate worldly knowledge as well as divine knowledge. We need to isolate from the dangerous and destructive cultures, for example, homosexuality. We need to reinstall different values, for example, family values, deconstructing. We need to remove erroneous notions about Islam and the Muslims. For example, Muslims are terrorists. We need to remove that kind of notion. We need to reconstruct what the West builds. We need to find loopholes and repair it with Islamic values. Reconstructing, we have to reconstruct social structure, human relationship, and cultural patterns. Number 9, we need to safeguard Islamic culture. And once Islamic culture is established, we need to safeguard that culture at any cost. And finally, once our culture is safeguarded, we have to spread it to the whole humanity so that humanity understands the worth and the necessity of this particular religion and wonderful way of life. And for all this, we need to have serious academic research and dissemination. We need to have quality education for all. We need to have very rigorous activism. We need to have active presence in media. We need to have think tanks, sometimes secular with Islamic purpose. We need to penetrate all positions of power. We understand what are the positions of power. We need to have strong social institutions and ties. For example,
Dr. Said, I'm afraid I won't be able to spare any more time to you. I understand. I'm sorry.
And that's it for me. So glory does not come automatically. We must work for it.
Thank you very much, Dr. Said.